This is the third step in our van build series, framing.
The next step we're going to work on is attaching the bed frame to the studs in the van. This van, because it's not a high top van, it's just a standard height cargo van, we're going to set our bed at 18 inches above the floor. That way you can still sit on the bed and not have your head hit the roof. So what I've done is I've gone around the van and marked 18 inches on all the studs or the ribs of where the bed's going to attach, because the bed's going to attach to the ribs in the van and not sit on the floor. So we've opted for the premium dimensional lumber, mostly because it has less knots and it's much straighter and much easier to work with. It was only like an extra $1 per board, so we felt like it was worth it. So we're going to use a chop saw to do our cuts here. But you could just as easily use a circular saw or a jigsaw. I'm going to use the chop saw because I have it and it does very nice angled cuts. So I've cut this board to length, actually a little bit long so I could trim it. This is going to sit right here at this height. And I'm going to have to make up a either a spacer or scribe this board to fit into this curvature of the van right here. So I'm going to have to make some spacers to go behind here, take up some of the room. So I'm going to attach it with 2 bolts that go through here and into the frame. And I can get my fingers behind here to get to the nuts. So there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to need to scribe this board so it sits flush. And then I'll use these 2-inch bolts to through bolt through the steel and the wood.
We cut a piece of scrap wood into a scribe by just cutting it on either side and then cutting the top into a point. And they also drilled a hole into the middle so that the marker would fit into it. And then we can just use it along the edge here to mark where it needs to be cut so it will sit flush.
I have the board cut to fit the angle of the van. Next step is to drill some holes to hold the board to the steel support. I'm going to start out with the smaller pilot drill, then follow up with the actual size. So I'm using a 3/8 bolt with a flat washer. And on the inside, I'm using a split lock washer and a nut. It's kind of hard to fish your fingers down in here to put the nut on the back of the bolt. So I've stuck a nut with a zip tie so I can fish it down. So right here, to attach this board to this rib, I'm going to have to use rivnuts. Because I can't get a nut on the back side. I have 6mm riv nuts. I'm going to install 3 of them. So I got the 3 positions that I drilled all the way through when I had the board sitting up here. Now I'm going to drill them out to the correct size for the riv nut. So this is what a uninstalled riv nut looks like next to an installed riv nut. The sheet metal and the steel van will sit between those 2 rings. Install it onto the mandrel, making sure your threads are all the way through. Right to the hole. Squeeze. Tighten up your nut a little bit. Sometimes it takes 2 2 pulls to get it done. And there you go. Installed riv nut that you can securely attach a screw to. Here's what it looks like as you're installing it into the van. You can see how that rib is forming. Then it pulls up tight to pinch the sheet metal. To attach the board to the rib nuts in the rib behind here, I use this socket-headed cap screw, mostly because I had them laying around. You could also use a standard bolt if you wanted to as well. And that just goes in and threads into place. Attaching the supports to the van, I used a bolt with a nut and a washer on the backside almost exclusively. Here, 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 and then most of the bed frame, except for the 2 spots over here and then on the opposite side where I couldn't get a nut, a washer on the backside. So I used the rib nuts there.
Your level.
You can't lease levels.
Why?
Because the van might not be level.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Not level.
Not level.
Okay.